have 4 research centers scattered throughout the state. Here in Powell, we focus on irrigated crops. That doesn't mean that all of our research focuses on irrigation. It just means we are the irrigated crops. That's kind of our specialty. But we do research on a broad spectrum of subjects. Obviously irrigation, you'll see a lot of drought studies and stuff today. But we also look at a lot of fertilizer treatments, different cropping systems. We do a lot of variety trials. We have a weed scientist on staff here at the center, so we do a lot of herbicide, weed control, different things of that nature. We have a subsurface drip that I'll show you up at the top. We have an on-surface drip, as well as flood irrigation and sprinkler. If you look off to your right, we have a hoop house that we have in vegetable production. We have numerous types of vegetables in there that we just grow to try and see what the different ways to grow them. We have different raised boxes, so really just a different ways to look at growing vegetables in a hoop house, try and expand our growing season, get the number of frost-free days so that we can expand that a little bit. You hear me several times mention that we have fields that are production acres. You may wonder why we have production acres on a research farm, but it's actually a vital part of our rotation, because after doing research on a field, a lot of times it can skew the research the following year. For example, if I do a fertilizer study and put different amounts of fertilizer in different plots, and then the following year they come in and do a variety trial, they could make it look like one variety is a lot better than the other based on fertilizer carryover from the previous year. And so we will periodically put those back into production and try and even that out in preparation for it going back into research the following year. This field on your right is set up for our on-surface drip irrigation. You'll see the manifold at the top. It is currently under just production acres, and we are flood irrigating it this year. This helps even things out and just prepare it. You'll see the same thing with the field. When we turn here on the left, everything on this top field here at the research center is subsurface drip irrigation. So the white discs that you see going across the bottom of this field are actually where the buried lines are, and we have we can do different fertilizer rates or different irrigation rates. We can do fertigation through the pump. So there's a lot that we can do in these conditions. Again, last year this was a fertilizer study. This year it is just in production barley. The field coming up here on your right is a dry bean variety trial. It's our cooperative study. This study is replicated throughout the U.S. and into Canada, and so different cooperators are invited to submit their variety of beans that they would like to see. We then grow those in all the different regions, and the results are published so that producers can see how beans perform in different areas throughout the region. Private industry is also invited, so companies like ADM, Prater Bean, and companies like that are invited to submit entries into the local variety trials as well. Coming up on your left is our grape vineyard. You can see the grapes are the tall leafy green ones. They're doing very well this year. A new addition this year is our goji berries. So all of the smaller plants you see down at this end are goji berries. That is a new possibility as a high value crop in Wyoming. Early studies in Sheridan indicate that this could perform well in Wyoming, as these berries tend to come on a lot earlier than many other berries and survive in cold weather, climate conditions down to 20 degrees. On your right is a barley trial. It's our elite malt barley trial. There's 30 different varieties of barley out there. These are done, we look at the performance of the different varieties, and then we also have 2 strip trials in here that Breeze out of Ralston asked us to do strip trials. With the strip trials, we get larger quantities and we can actually take that all the way through to malting because we have enough to actually go in and malt. So then they'll evaluate the malt performance on those strips as well. The field here on your right is an alfalfa field that's currently production. It was a study on new seedling alfalfa last year, and so it is just a carryover from last year's study. Coming up the field on your right is a barley field. That's our Western Regional Spring Barley Nursery. This is another nursery where people are invited to submit entries from all over the region. This is then replicated in many different locations, and the results are published for all of the producers and malt companies to see which varieties they would like to produce in these areas. Just ahead on the right, you can actually see a potato field. This is in connection, the local food hub came to us and asked us to try and grow potatoes. What different varieties work best, what sells best, and so this has been kind of new for us to do potatoes. So we have 6 different varieties of potatoes here. And then this field, just on the right, you'll see all these white sticks. This is a seed increase. Dr. Jim Highholt is a plant breeder and is coming up with dry bean cultivars that are drought tolerant. And so these are some new varieties that he's created, and he only has 10 to 20 plants. We then plant those and try and increase them so that he can do a seed increase to put on larger scale production to test for drought tolerance. Field on your left with the flags in it is a sugar beet field looking at pre-plant herbicide burn down in sugar beets. They can be found on page 79 in your field days bulletin if you're interested. It is done by Dr. Gustavo Spatella. This is looking at different herbicides including Beta, Paraquat, and Roundup, and different tank mixes or standalone mixes of that. Different ways to control weeds in sugar beets. Here on your left is something I was brought to my attention This is actually wheat that is being grown for malting. That's not something that commonly happens. It's usually barley, but these are two different varieties. The center variety is Rockland, and this variety here that we're passing a little taller is Vita. This will be taken all the way through. If we can get low enough protein in it, then they'll be able to use it as malting wheat. Both fields here on your left and right were research studies last year that are being put into production this year to try and get them ready for next year. We're passing on your right is lupine. This was brought to us by a producer wanting to grow it for seed, but there are not currently any herbicides labeled for lupine. And so this was brought to us to try and figure out what could possibly work to control weeds in lupine. Some of the things that we looked at are for pre-emergence were dual, Sonaland, Treflan, Outlook, and then as a post-emergence application, we used Raptor and Butarac. As you can see, some of the chemicals were able to control the weeds, some of them damaged the lupine, some of them were effective, so that's really represents what we do is we take the risk so that the producers don't have to, and then we can make recommendations on what works and what doesn't. On your right is Dr. Jim Highholtz. It can be found on page 59 in your field day bulletin. We are looking at 32 different varieties of beans and screening them for drought tolerance. We will then take those and he will try and breed new varieties of beans that are drought tolerant and would improve yields, both reliability and quantity. Parts of this field are being irrigated at 75% irrigation and parts of them are at full irrigation. The field on your left is a study being done by Dr. Bill Stump. It can be found on page 89 in your field days bulletin. This is looking at comparing different fungicides to control rhizoctonia and root and crown rot in sugar beets. Some of the fungicides that he's using are Quandris, and comparing some others with that to see how effective they are. The field on your right, something that some producers worry about is we do these tests in small plots and they wonder how effective or how representative that truly is, and so sometimes we're asked by companies to do large-scale field plots. This field on your right was asked by Miller Coors. The variety that we're passing now is the Moravian 169, which is the new variety that could possibly replace the current Moravian 69, which is the variety we're now passing. So it's kind of fun to see the new varieties coming out and how they perform in large scale plots and how effective they are. The field on your left, up at the top, the white flags, you can see they're doing weed control in sandpoint. And then these yellow and orange flags at the bottom, they are looking at different ways to terminate a sandpoint stand. One of the things with sandpoint that it naturally has some resistance to Roundup. And so after producers plant it, it's good to know different ways to end that sandpoint stand. And so they're trying different things in there. And that is being done by Dr. Gustavo Spatella. So if you have questions, please contact him. The field on your right is a confectionery sunflower field. It's currently just production acres, but something that's really interesting to me, and I'll try and point it out to you if I remember. Look at the size of these sunflowers, and then look at the size of the next sunflower field we pass. And they were all planted the same day, but the other sunflower field was watered about 4 days earlier. And just look at how much growth you can see with just 4 days earlier irrigation schedule. The field on our right is a dry bean field. It's a study that's being done by one of our interns with the PI is Andrew Canis. We're looking at conventional tillage versus no-till in barley stubble, raising dry beans. The idea behind this is that we can then do direct harvest dry beans, saves on tillage in the field. So if you look in here, you'll see barley stubble still standing. When the dry beans sense the barley stubble and think it's competition, it causes them to then elongate and get taller, which makes for less yield loss when you come in and direct harvest those plants because they're taller and the pods are higher up off the ground. The field on our left is a weed control in established alfalfa stand. This is conventional alfalfa. So they're looking at using indazoflam, which is a herbicide that's commonly used in grape vineyards. It's used as a pre-emergent, and in alfalfa, we are using it when the alfalfa is dormant. We spray it on and then look at it as a weed control throughout the growing season. large-scale production field that Breeze has asked us to do. This is a variety known as Bojo. So we're looking at the performance characteristics of that, and then they'll take it all the way through to malting to evaluate the malting performance of it as well. Here at the station, outside of the research, the variety of the plot varieties, we actually have 6 different varieties of barley planted, just the different large-scale production fields that they want to see. So that's kind of fun to see all the different characteristics and how it matures. Field just behind the sprinkler there is the Miller Coors strip trials. It can be found on page 57 in your field days bulletin. We take different varieties and do strips. Again, they take it all the way through to malting and evaluate the performance. This field here where the sprinkler is at is a sugar beet field. We're looking at drought conditions, so there's 3 different irrigation rates as well as different fertilization rates in this study. Dr. Vivek Sharma has this study, and he takes readings of the moisture in the soil at 4 different depths, 1, 2, 3, and 4 feet. So he has moisture sensing probes that we can measure the moisture there, and then makes the recommendations on how much water should be applied for the crop based on those readings. If you look at this sprinkler, if you can watch closely, you'll see certain sections turn on and off as it goes across this field. This is a new system that we were able to acquire this year. It's a variable rate irrigation system, and it allows us to put different fertilizer or irrigation rates anywhere from 5% to 100%. So it cycles these sprinklers on and off as it rolls across to achieve the different irrigation rates. This field that we're currently driving past is another study being done by Dr. Gustavo Spatella and his grad student, looking at herbicide carryover and crop rotation under drought conditions. And the idea behind it being, if you spray a certain herbicide and then you have drought conditions, it will have more residue left in the soil. So they are measuring the herbicide residue in the soil for the following year. The first year, which is what we were just passing, is corn and soy, or in dry beans. And then in year 2, which is what we were just coming to, they then go in and plant sugar beets, dry beans, sunflowers, and corn back into that rotation to see how that herbicide carryover affects those different crops. And as we drive past it, you can definitely see different levels. The plants will be stunted, or some have very poor emergence and don't come up hardly at all due to the herbicide left in the soil if you don't have proper irrigation on it from the following year. One exciting aspect about this study is they are hoping to then be able to use this as a predictor So they take soil samples from this, take it up to our greenhouse, and plant crops into that to see how they emerge. Hopefully we can take that, and if a producer feels that they may have some herbicide carryover, we can grow crops in that soil in the greenhouse and help them predict whether or not it's going to be an issue for them in the coming growing season. Got lucky today that the wind's blowing this direction. We might have been a little wet. Study that we're passing here on the right, I should say new study, a different study. This is actually its third year that we've been doing it. This is looking at the effects of herbicides, crop rotation, and tillage on ALS-resistant kochia, trying to find different ways to control ALS-resistant kochia. So some of the crops that they use in the rotation here is sugar beets, dry bean, corn, and wheat. Herbicides that target the ALS enzyme are actually one of the most prevalent in the herbicides that we use today. So this is a very important study to be able to find out how to control those weeds in the future. On our right is a pea field. This is a variety of peas that was actually developed at the University of Wyoming. This is being done as a seed increase. It's a new variety, and so we're trying to get enough seed to put it into large-scale production. And it is a winter pea that should survive through the winter when we plant it in the fall and then re-emerge in the spring. The next field is also a seed increase. It is the variety Cowboy winter wheat. So again, planted in the fall, emerges in the spring. So this is a seed increase that we use and then sell to producers as they want to grow this variety of wheat. That we'll pass is a 1976. And so again, they've just asked us to grow it on large scale. We'll then send in the samples and they'll take it all the way through malting. They want to see the yield in these growing conditions and then look at the malting quality in the malt panels. Coming up here on your right, we have a 1910 Avery steam engine. This is one of only 3 running 1910 Avery steam engines that is still running in the United States. One of only 6 left in the United States, one of which can be found in the Smithsonian. So this is a really neat opportunity for us to have it here in Powell. And as I mentioned earlier, it was brought in by Keith Murray, who has a large antique tractor collection and was willing to come in. The steam engine is pulling a 12 bottom disc plow. We also have a John Deere that will be following him pulling a 1 bottom plow. As these steam engines run, you'll see it's not just a one-man job. So there's one person that, the conductor that steers the steam engine. You have one person that has to stoke the fire. They have coal that they burn to produce the heat. And then there's also another team that comes behind and has to haul water to the steam engine to keep enough steam to make it run. The 1 bottom plow, you'll see he drops just one side at a time. He'll go down to the end of the field, and then when he flips around, he then drops the other plow to keep the furrow going the same direction across the whole field. Field on your right, we're doing corn and soybeans being grown together, intercropping them. purpose of this is try and increase the forage, the feed value of the corn when you grow it for silage. And then we're also doing another study that's set up exactly the same, but we'll then take the corn all the way through and harvest it as grain, leaving the soybeans there as a stubble that we then would turn livestock out. So we'll then take feed samples and send that in as well, looking at ways to increase feed value if you were to turn livestock out on your corn stubble. Up here on your right, just past the end of the corn, you can see a soybean field. We're looking at a soybean maturity group, looking at 6 different groups of soybean. This is a new crop that's being brought into the area. One of the continuing challenges that producers have is how to control hairy nightshade and still keep a legume in your rotation. The nightshade can be a serious problem in dry bean production. And so to be able to put in a legume such as soybeans, control the nightshade, and then go back into dry bean production the following year would be a major benefit to producers. And so this is what being done by Dr. Spatella, looking at bringing a new crop into the area that could possibly help control that particular weed.